Welcome to episode 17 of Reddit questions from r/OverwatchUniversity. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. Here we go. First question, did they nerf comms? Did they nerf comms like, hello, thanks? No. I noticed for maybe a week or so that comms that are bound to keys on my settings has stopped working all the time. It works about 20% or maybe even less. I won't lie, I bound behind you, oh, that's Baptiste, on my mouse down one day and it turned on my infinite scroll on my mouse and scrolled down real hard, similar to the big wheel game on The Price is Right, thus making Baptiste say behind you, a few times, but I only did it once and only had him say it like 5 times. After that, I've noticed my voice line comms are all muted or it just works sometimes. Did it get revoked? Blah, blah, blah. This isn't really a question. Well, I don't have to answer this question because it turns out the poster of this says it's a bug. The solution is to not look at your teammates when using the voice command at this time. I'm not sure if it's been patched yet, but I don't need to add any input to that one. That's a big common question. If you've been wondering why, there you go. Next question, thoughts on Mauga in comp? Ooh, I've got some big thoughts here. Okay, this was from 4 days ago, but this person asked, it's been just over 6 hours since Mauga made it to comp, and I'm already ready to shut off the game until the next patch. I thought people were overreacting to Mauga, but no, he really does make the game feel terrible. What was Blizzard thinking with his hero design? It absolutely grinds the game into a terrible state where both Maugas are just pocket heal bots who stand and shoot at everything in sight. You have to run Ana and Kiriko just to keep them up, and then you're trading nades and Suzu on cooldown. It's horrible and frustrating. Worst of all, boring AF. What are your impressions of Mauga in comp? Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I agree with you. Mauga is S tier right now, and by far the best tank, the strongest tank in the game. And part of the reason why, what's actually mind-boggling is, I actually think he was fine after the nerfs. Actually, the nerfs on the lighting thing on fire last week, or like a week ago when they hot fixed him, it was okay, but he was actually on the weaker side. But like when they reverted that back, for some reason they added more armor and more damage reduction or more lifesteal when he pops whatever that is, cardiac arrest. Now the problem with Mauga having all this armor right now is armor is a 30% reduction, and that's layered on top of the cardiac arrest. It's overdrive, but I keep calling it cardiac arrest now. I know it's not that, but I'm just gonna roll with it, okay? Cardiac arrest gives him like 70% damage reduction right now. And then you top that with the armor layer on top. They gave him more armor, by the way. So he's got like 300 plus blocks of chunks of armor on the front of his HP. If your supports can continue to heal him before he gets too low so that the enemies are damaging that armor portion, while that passive is up, he's incredibly tanky. So he's taking two parts of damage reduction, plus he's life stealing, right? A bunch on top of that, and he's getting that over health passive. So like all Blizzard needed to do was just not give him that survivability, just revert that fire damage thing to light on fire, and then he would have been okay. Also, I do want to say it's exacerbated a little bit because both teams are running Mauga a lot in ranked, and you're actually going to inevitably heal more on tanks that don't really have that much like shields or some sort of matrix like Sigma Suck or Diva Matrix or Rhine Shield or Ram Shield. So when you're healing off another Mauga or like Roadhog, for example, you're gonna feel a lot tankier than you actually are. A lot of the Mauga playstyle is to shoot the other tank. So my early impression is you just need to nerf his sustain, his survivability, remove a big portion of his armor. If in fact you could honestly go back and experiment with like just like 100 armor instead of like the 300 plus right now, and his survivability will go way down so that you don't need to necessarily run Ana to anti him. Another thing you could do is probably lower either the overhealth gain or increase the cooldown between cardiac arrest usage, because every time he has that ability up, he's pretty much unkillable, if I do say so myself. Now, ways to counter him. Probably, most teams are running Ana Kiriko right now. You're not wrong, you are trading a lot of the cooldowns, but I've actually had some success playing Baptiste against him. I'm able to DPS the Mauga because he's just a big hitbox, right? I play Baptiste against them, and if my Mauga is shooting their Mauga, I drop a window whenever they cage fight for him, and then they're just pumping. I put it on the back end, and I'm just healing, and he's doing double damage inside. You can melt him. Zenyatta does pretty well too. Mauga does have to charge in and commit if he does want to jump the Zen, so you're able to play Zen pretty carefully or pretty far back against an enemy Mauga to help deal with him on the support line. And for DPSs, this is actually what's skyrocketing Sojourn's play rate right now, at least in top 500 ladder that I've been playing on. everybody's running Sojourn when they're running Mauga, because Mauga is just free at 100 charge for Sojourn every time. And a lot of Sojourns, either if like there's no one else to shoot, they just quickly go 100 energy and then boom, rail the Mauga nonstop. And if not, they just like ignore him. They just farm it off the armor because he is pretty tanky, especially if he has the damage reduction from the cardiac up, right? There's no point in wasting a rail on him. They just charge up really fast on him and then shoot some of the squishies off on the side. But yeah, my thoughts are they definitely need to nerf this guy. He's way too good at this current time. Next question. It just occurred to me that after 7 years of Overwatch, why can't you hear reloads? Good question. In almost every game, you can hear reloads as a tactical cue, but in most cases of Overwatch, it wouldn't matter, but sometimes it would matter a lot. Imagine hearing a Junkrat around a corner, you didn't hear his shots, but you hear him start his reload, so you can insta-peek. I wouldn't insta-peek a Junkrat, but hey. For competitive gaming, there'd be no loss in adding that feature, but what do you think? Honestly, that's a good point. My thoughts on that are you probably can add that a little quietly. I think it comes to a point in a lot of games where you don't want too much sensory overload. Overwatch itself is already a very flashy game with a gazillion visual effects and sound effects and like map ambient sounds. That's one of the reasons why I actually shut off the background music for Overwatch, just to cut one of the senses out, because there's just a lot going on. When we go back in time and think of 6v6 again, it's actually pretty comical to think of how many things you have to keep track of. There's just a gazillion things flying off, voice lines going out. A lot of other games, well, Valorant does it now with voice lines, but you know, like in Apex, for example, you don't hear like an Octane being like, I'm padding in, you know what I mean? So, you know, this game has voice lines, those games have reload sounds, and they don't have voice lines, you know what I mean? So Overwatch, I feel it's okay without them. I wouldn't mind if they added it, but like it's been 7 years. I don't think they need to fix what ain't broken. What's nice is that there's a little bit of a cadence to each hero's like reload and weapon attack speed kind of cadence, and you can sort of like pick up on that tempo once you play the game long enough. For example, if I hear you mentioned Junkrat, if I didn't necessarily hear or see the Junkrat, I can kind of see a bunch of shots, and like there's like a subconscious of me that's sort of manually tracking the amount of shots that Junkrat's fired out. If I ever see 6 shots, I know there's like a brief period where there'll be nothing. It's hard to it's one of those like passive skills you'll pick up as a long-time player. Maybe you guys haven't, but like that is something that, like, I mean, just for reference, that's something that I subconsciously do. Maybe you can actively try picking up on those cues, and then maybe hopefully it'll become a subconscious thing and just add that to your skill repertoire. But yeah, I wouldn't mind if they added it, but I'm fine if they don't either. Next question. Is this really, there's no question mark here, but it just says Sombra hacking Sigma out of Flux. Why is this interaction in the game? There's virtually no counterplay to it, and it's so ridiculously easy to execute as a Sombra since hack doesn't require any aim. There's no cooldown penalty if it gets interrupted without taking damage. Every time I ult as Sigma against a Sombra, I either have to hide and get no value or follow up from my ult, or she simply clicks on my character model and the entire ult gets cancelled. I can see EMP canceling it as it's a large resource commitment to counter another large resource, but hack alone I believe is just a flawed interaction. Thoughts? Sombra's one of those weird heroes where a lot of the interactions are inconsistent, right? And they don't do it for like, you know, fantasy reasons. It's like, why can a hacker that's like hacking computers hack a person who's like manipulating gravity, right? Sombra's EMP used to not be able to like completely remove May's Blizzard, her ultimate, but now it does. It doesn't remove Tree of Life anymore from Life Root, but it used to. And then yeah, like it's all over the place. That's the EMP example. But the hack, same thing. If you hack Lucio, he can't use any auras. He can't wall ride, and then Ball, he gets like kicked out of his his ball form, and he's back to Thing. But then Bastion, if he gets hacked in the other form, he doesn't revert back, which is a little inconsistent. So my thoughts on the Sombra interactions, they are doing this particularly for balance reasons, and you do have to learn each one individually. To be honest, you say you get hacked out of it every time, but like there is like a little bit of team play to it. You should be like, if you're going to Flux and you're playing against a Sombra, that's just another thing you have to think about. It's annoying as a Sigma player. I understand your frustration, and that's why you put it out. But like as it currently stands, I don't even think Sombra is that good right now, at least in the higher levels. She gets capitalized and jumped on very easily from high level players, and people are, it's just another factor to think of in that matchup. Just simply don't Flux until you either force that Sombra out, you see her physically throw the translocator far enough away in a certain area that you know that she can't get you, and then you put your shield up first. When you go for the Flux, you can actually shield dance. If she starts the finger dance, you can actually quickly LOS it behind your shield and then fly back. That's one way to counter it. The other one is to like call it on and be like, I'm gonna go for a Flux in my team, and then you call it on and be like, try to interrupt the Sombra if she like, you know, tries to hack me out of it. Maybe you have a tracer or somebody who can just pepper her for a little bit to interrupt it. When you interrupt it, the penalty is long enough that she can't re-hack you. You said you're okay with her committing the EMP on it, and I think that's fair too. You're committing a big ultimate for big ultimate. But against that hack specifically, those are 2 ways to do it. Or actually make it 3. The third one is kill her first before you Flux. So kill her, shield dance, put your shield up and shield dance behind the hack, or 3, track her and play around it. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm okay with this interaction in the game as it currently stands, but again, I'm not a Sigma player specifically, so maybe I'm a little biased. Seems okay to me. Okay, next, is nano-bob viable? I main Ana, and some of my friends play Ashe, and when we play quick play, I save my nano for the bob just for fun. But now that we started to play more comp, I was actually wondering if nano boosting the bob is a good combo, or if I should save or use it for another combo or just the tank. I know it depends on the situation, but between other alt combos, is this one of the better ones? Short answer is no. I would say I have 1,500 hours on Ana, and I've nanoed bob like 10 times at most in my life. And those 10 times were very specific scenarios where maybe Bob was the last one to stall the point in like an overtime match, and there's nobody else in nano. We need that Bob to live to stall a little longer. That's A. B, where I know they actually expended some cooldowns and he's actually in a good spot, but that's pretty rare. So yeah, in general, I would not do it. Bob is easily slept by an enemy. Ana's pretty popular, right? On the other team, if they sleep the Bob, he's stationary. He's easy to do that. They can actually burn the Bob, as in like destroy his HP completely because he's just stationary. And 3, they can just LOS it. It's very easy to do. If you get shot a little bit, you can just hide into cover, and then you lose value pretty fast. So short answer is no. Very niche situations, you would use it for Bob. And I would prefer to save your nano for either another combo, but everybody thinks combo. This is just like outside of the question, the scope of the question. But like Ana's nano boost has more than just a combo. You can use it for tempo, a tempo nano. Like you just have an advantage as a 5v5. The whole point of using a nano boost is to win a team fight, right? And if you simply nanoing a tank in a moment is enough to win the team fight, job well done. Everybody thinks you need to get a 5k nano blade to win the fight. Yeah, he kills 3 or 4, you won the fight. But if nanoing the tank in that moment is enough to win the fight, so be it. Another one is a saving nano. I use my nano a lot to save somebody. They get low HP, doesn't matter what the combo is. If saving that person in your judgment in that scenario is enough to win that fight, so be it. My Brig's getting jumped because they're like, I don't know, like 3 people jumped and you got dove the Brig for some reason, and I nano the Brig and she survives. They just committed 3 resources and they're out of position and my Brig now lives. You're gonna win the fight off that, as an example. And you can also save someone with the instant burst of HP and the damage reduction. For example, if someone gets stuck by a pulse bomb from a tracer, you instantly nano them, they live, unless they're 150 HP. But all 200 HP heroes now live against that. So more food for thought. Next question: what is the fastest way to get back into mech as a diva? I was playing a game recently with D.Va on my team. Whenever her mech got busted, she would get ult charge and back into the mech in what felt like 10 to 15 seconds. She seemed to be running up close to the enemy every time, so I'm guessing shooting them up a lot close, but it still surprised me how fast they repeatedly got it back. Is there a general best strategy for this, or just get up close and aim for headshots? Well, the reason why it builds really quickly in 10 to 15 seconds is because D.Va's ultimate costs like 300 ultimate charge, which means you need to deal about 300 damage. I think it's like 312 or 320. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head because they've been changing it a lot since Overwatch 1, Overwatch 2. But it's in the low 300s. When Baby D.Va shoots a tank, she gets 25% less ult charge because that's a tank passive. But in general, a Baby D.Va, all she needs to do is deal 300 damage. And honestly, if it takes a little bit of time, there's passive charge. So honestly, I'll estimate like 250 damage on a D.Va and you're pretty much going to get your ult back. So the strategy isn't so much aim for headshots. It's just as soon as you're demeched, if it's safe to do so, you just hold down your gun. That's it. Just beep, 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 just hope some people walk into it, because a single bullet on D.Va is enough to like give you like 5% ult charge. I don't know. The numbers aren't as important. All you need to know is it does rebuild fast. So it's less about aiming for headshots and just getting as many bullets as you can. Now, you say in your example where you saw a person run directly into the team, maybe it's because they have a really big enemy hitbox and it's much easier to land your shots up close. You run the risk of dying, of course, but that's a judgment call you have to make based on the enemy comp that they have. Are they pressured from your team? But in general, no best strategy. Just fire your bullets as fast as you can. That's all you need to do. Or just hold the button down, excuse me. You can't fire it any faster than the limitations of the game, but you know what I'm trying to get at. Okay, what is the hardest role to play in Overwatch 2? This person says it has to be tank, right? For starters, I think tank is the only role in the game that cannot get away with being one tricks and still find consistent success, unless the hero you play is meta defining, such as Zarya at launch. Do the rock, paper, scissors style of play? I feel as though tank players need to be skillful with at least 3 heroes. Supports and DPS get a pass because they aren't burdened with being the sole player during the games. It has to, okay, let me stop you here and say you can get away with being one tricks. There's actually a lot of one tricks in top 500 playing unfavorable tanks, and they still hit top 500. I think 6 still played Roadhog even when he was bad and still hit top 500, still hit like top 20 or something. Legitimately, this rock, paper, scissors style is like a very surface level way of playing Overwatch. It's partially true, but like not the whole story, because you can find value in the game in many ways than just playing a different tank and using those tank abilities to counter, when you, who are being countered as a tank, can find angles and a different approach and a different way to find value in the game. But I'm not going to dive into that. But that's just something I want to stop you there and say, you don't need to play at least 3 heroes. You certainly can. It may not be fun, because there will be a time where they do pick a lot of heroes that are very strong against your specific tank, but I digress. Furthermore, tanks need to be blah, 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 blah. Be aware of everything. Supports have the benefit of splitting up. There are 3 counter arguments. Tanks have the benefit of defining a playstyle for the team. Dive, poke, brawl that suits them, and the burden rests on the other 2 roles to adapt to that style. Another thing you can argue is who takes the most blame for this, blah, 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 blah. In this regard, I do think supports take an unhealthy amount of blame for when anyone dies. Partially true, yeah. Stats are misleading, correct, because numbers don't equate to value and impact, correct, blah, 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 blah. This can be a case for all roles, but support stats are muddied waters, agreed. Lastly, you can argue for carry potential. I'd love for you guys to share your opinion. Okay, so this... Your take on it isn't incorrect, but the thing with like hardest role, anything that people perceive as hard or easy is going to be subjective no matter how you slice it. For me, I actually find DPS harder to play than tank. I'm a support main. I have like 90% of my hours in Overwatch on support. I find DPS harder. My ranks are, I've hit GM1 on tank, I've only hit GM5 on DPS, and I'm GM1 on support. That's my distribution. But your perception of tank isn't correct, like I corrected you, or not corrected you. Like I answered you earlier, you do take, so tank is a difficult role for a lot of people because you do need to be aware of everything. You do need to understand your role on the team, how to take space, how to define the play style for your team. Like you said, dive, poke, brawl. That is partially true, especially in like an average play. You're never gonna get a composition, or not never, but in most cases, in most ranks, you're never going to get a full team comp built around what you pick. And so certainly some tanks are easier in a way that they're more flexible with the playstyle. For example, if you're playing dive like Winston, you might get like Mercy, Moira, Bastion, and like, I don't know, Torbjorn, who are very like slow in the back pokey style while you're just solo diving in. That's going to be a lot more difficult than worrying about what the enemy tank is playing with the rock, paper, scissors. So agreed, having the right team, the tank built around you makes it tough. I mean, I'm kind of talking in circles, but yeah, to answer your question, I find DPS harder because like I'm just not as good at that role, and sort of agree and disagree. I think DPS for me, but I can understand why tank is the most hardest, and tank is probably the second hardest. Support's easiest for me. Okay. Why do high-ranked players, masters, or GMs swear by Sigma? I'm planning on getting into comp again. I used to be high diamond tank, blah, 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 intent on playing tank. However, I feel like I have the wrong climbing mindset, since I just don't see myself touching Sigma like ever, even though most high-ranked players seem to swear by him. Whenever I watch him being played at a high level, usually Emong, all his supposed utility just falls flat and he ends up looking exactly like my Sigma. I mean, I can definitely make him work, but I always feel like I'd be better off on any other tank except for Wrecking Ball. Should I still stick with my comfort pick, or is Sigma still getting good? Worth getting good at or better at? It depends if you find Sigma fun. I'm gonna be honest with you. Why do you play Overwatch? I would say for most people is to have fun. If you like your comfort picks and you're more comfortable on them, I would say stick to them. But from a pure competitive standpoint, having Sigma in your pool of heroes is never a bad thing. He's very versatile. He's resistant to a lot of hard counters. He's got reliable damage, a CC with the rock that stuns a lot of things. He's got a suck, which can, you know, eat so many projectiles, so much potential counterplay. He probably has the best uptime on most tanks because he's very damage mitigating with the shield and the suck, and he gets a lot of over health, so he can survive a very long time. He can shield off enemy supports. Like, there's just a lot of things you can do with him. He's got a great ultimate. I mean, all those things kind of add up and make him a very well-rounded tank, especially for the poke. And you still see him played. Even in this Mauga meta, I saw some players still play Sig on very long, narrow front-to-back maps, like Circuit Royale, which is why he's very good there, because you poke them, because they don't really have good angles to, like, side approach you from the side. If it's very front-to-back, then Sigma is, like, a fantastic poke hero and still works great. I honestly think if Mauga's nerfed, it's back to Sigma for a little bit, as well as a very strong tank to play on a lot of maps. But yeah, a lot of them swear by Sigma because he's just, that's it. He does so much damage too. He's just reliable, and he's not gonna like have this like hard carry potential. So when you say you watch Emong, it looks like it's like falling flat. It's because you don't understand the value he's generating by simply standing there and existing in that specific area. He's only able to stand there on this tank specifically. If Emong was any other tank, not Sigma, in that scenario you're probably watching, they probably have to like back up and wait for heals, and like, you know, they can't pressure as much on other heroes. But Emong is getting value by simply standing there and just spamming. He has no like reload cycle really, right? He's just always firing thing and always poking. So enemies have to like, maybe when they try to approach, they take a little advantage. They have to wait for healing a little bit. Like that stuff you can't really see on the stat sheet, or you may not notice as a viewer. But that's one thing you can study when you watch great tank players who play Sigma, is like, what are they denying? How much are they really poking? They're not converting kills. It looks like it's flat, but just look for hit markers. Any sort of hit marker and pressure increases the tempo of the match. Like, maybe another good example is like, if you're like a platinum player, you should really try these like J3 lobbies where you get thrown into a grandmaster lobby, and you'll just feel the difference in movement and tempo. Like, you try to do something, but you're just taking random damage from somewhere, and you're like, why am I taking damage? Is it because my movement sucks, or are they just really good at just annoying and pressuring you? Then you feel that antsiness or that pressure. You're like, oh, I need supports to heal me. Or if you're the support, you have to like, you're constantly just shooting like, oh my god, everyone's low HP, what am I supposed to do? Like, that's what Sigma does. And if they have a full comp built around a Sigma poke, oh, you're just gonna feel the wrath. Okay, is it better to aim for more body shots on Kiriko? Quick answer is probably no, but let me read this. I've seen a lot of pro players play Kiri, and they're basically of two types. Ones who aim for the head more than the body, and the others who aim for the body more often. So what's better? Like a 20, 25 crit, normal accuracy, 10 to 45? I go for headshots more frequently, so I want to know if the other option yields better results. No, in general, like, because the headshot ratio is disproportionately higher, it's like 2.5x. It used to be 3x, right? It used to be like a 40 body shot, 120 head. It's a little different now. Isn't it like 45 body and like 112 to the head? In any case, headshots are inherently higher value, and you say there's two types, but in general, I would actually imagine most of them are still going for headshots, especially from medium to long range. Up close, maybe if they're really low or they're like a tank, you can kind of just like chuck them in the body for some quick damage to confirm a kill, but almost always go for headshots. It is like insane value, and it's the only way to get better at landing headshots is to actually aim for headshots. If you start defaulting to body shots, then your skill at hitting heads is actually just never going to improve. So just keep going for headshots. Getting a pick is better than just chipping away at damage, and especially if they have armor on tanks, like getting the headshot helps penetrate like the 30% armor a lot quicker than a bunch of body shots. So there you go. Okay, final question. How can supports other than Ana deal with Mauga? I'm a support main in high gold, and I'm having the problem with Mauga right now as I used with what am I reading? Okay, he melted my entire team. My heals aren't enough to stop that from happening. I know Ana is a good choice. Nate is super useful, but my aim is subpar, so I struggle to get much value out of using her. Are there any other good options for facing Mauga or general ways? If your aim sucks, that's kind of tough. I mean, you don't really need aim per se to like land an anti, but this top comment here, like Zenyatta, not a bad one to just permanently discord him, keep it on him. Mauga is probably not going to LOS it pretty often. If he charges and commits, he's probably going to be in the open for a long period of time, so Zen's not a bad option. But if your aim sucks, kind of hard, to be honest with you. You kind of just have to like, it's like a battle of attrition. If you have your own Mauga, you just out heal your Mauga, and hopefully you sustain that your teammate or you're a Mercy and you pocket or a Sojourn enough to kill the Mauga, but that puts the onus on the other player. But that is something to consider, right? There are some Mercy only players in top 500 that I play with. It's like, how do they deal with Mauga? Well, they're not going to pull out the pistol, but they know their priority is less about healing. Like, this Mercy is not flying to heal the Mauga. My Mercies on my team are like staying with my Sojourn, because Sojourn with a damage boost is farming 100 rail so easily off the Mauga. I answered it a little bit earlier. That's the priority. If you're Zenyatta, permanent discord. If you're a Lucio, disengage with speed. If he's like charging in and pops his cardiac overdrive, disengage, boop him back once he lands, of course, because he's unstoppable until he lands. If you're a Brig, whip shot every 4 seconds to create distance, because like the further away you are from Mauga, the less he's going to heal and the more spread his weapons have. As a Baptiste, well, if your aim sucks, then tough luck there. But I personally like Bap a lot because you DPS the shit out of him. If you're a Life Weaver, you pull someone out, you just disengage. You don't really have the offensive tools on some of these heroes, but enough to kind of like defensively annoy him enough. So you cycle one of his initiation cooldowns, whether that's Overrun or the cardiac arrest, and you punish him as a team afterwards. But as it stands, Mauga's a little overtuned right now. This is just all you can do at this point. Okay, and I believe that is all for this week. 10 questions. Hopefully I answered them well enough to your liking. If you enjoyed listening to me ramble on this Christmas day, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe, come to my Twitch stream because the drops are still going on for the festive Rhine skin, and I'll see you next week. Happy holidays, everybody.